Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible life story of Tim Cook, the man who quietly transformed Apple into the world's most valuable company. From his humble beginnings in Alabama to leading a global tech giant, Tim's journey is full of inspiration, determination, and visionary leadership. If you want to learn how discipline, integrity, and innovation can change the world, you're in the right place. Make sure to stay until the end for powerful lessons from Tim Cook's remarkable story. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our inspiring biographies. Timothy Donald Cook, widely recognized today as the CEO of Apple Inc., was born on November 1, 1960, in the small town of Robertsdale, Alabama, USA. Raised in a modest, working-class family, Tim's upbringing was grounded in discipline, respect, and Southern values. His story is not one of inherited fortune or early fame. It is a tale of perseverance, dedication, and quiet strength. Tim was the middle of three sons born to Donald Cook, a shipyard worker at the Alabama Dry Dock and Shipbuilding Company, and Geraldine Cook, a homemaker who managed the household with care and frugality. His parents didn't have much, but they ensured their children had everything they needed: education, love, and a sense of responsibility. Robertsdale, a town of fewer than 6,000 people, was a place where everybody knew each other. Tim was known to be shy, reserved, and extremely focused, even from a young age. He was not a boisterous or flamboyant child, but one who believed in hard work and doing things right. Tim attended Robertsdale High School, where he was considered an outstanding student. He was quiet in class, but always thorough, organized, and curious. He excelled particularly in mathematics and science, which would become foundational in his future career. His teachers noted his sharp, analytical mind and calm demeanor, traits that would serve him well in the boardrooms of Silicon Valley decades later. Outside the classroom, Tim wasn't the stereotypical tech whiz or budding entrepreneur. He wasn't dismantling radios or building computers in his garage like some of his future Silicon Valley peers. Instead, he was a dedicated learner, athlete, and member of the marching band. He played trombone and was a proud part of his school's culture. Tim's journey into the world of technology wasn't instant. Unlike Steve Jobs, who was fascinated by design and counterculture from a young age, Tim took a more methodical and pragmatic path. After graduating as second in his high school class in 1978, he was accepted into Auburn University in Alabama, a moment that marked a pivotal turn in his life. He enrolled in industrial engineering, a discipline that combined his love for logic, processes, and optimization. It was at Auburn that Tim began to see the power of technology and systems in transforming businesses and solving real-world problems. Auburn also gave Tim his first exposure to computing. Though Tim remained relatively introverted during his college years, his professors quickly recognized his meticulous nature and leadership potential. He was always the student who delivered on time, sought clarity, and went beyond the surface. During his time at Auburn, Cook interned at a paper mill and later with an aluminum manufacturer, giving him first-hand experience in how manufacturing processes work, something that would later become critical in his career. In 1982, Tim graduated from Auburn with a Bachelor of Science degree in industrial engineering. He had laid the foundation of a solid career, but no one, not even Tim himself, could have imagined that one day he would lead the most valuable company in the world. What made Tim stand out, even in these early years, was not flashy intelligence or charismatic speeches. It was his discipline, ethical grounding, and unwavering focus on doing what's right. He was deeply influenced by his Southern upbringing and his mother's teachings. She instilled in him values of honesty, humility, and service to others. Even after moving away from his hometown, Tim maintained a strong bond with his family. His loyalty and sense of responsibility stayed with him, becoming a core part of his leadership style in the years to come. Unlike many others in the tech world, Tim was never driven by ego. He believed in quiet leadership, that results spoke louder than words. This mentality set him apart in an industry often fueled by bravado. By the early 1980s, personal computing was on the rise. Companies like Apple, IBM, and Microsoft were starting to shape the digital landscape. Though Tim wasn't directly involved in the early computer revolution, his engineering background and exposure to operations gave him a different kind of edge. He understood how to make things work efficiently, not just invent them. Tim Cook didn't begin his career with the dream of being a CEO. He didn't crave the spotlight, but he had a unique set of traits: an analytical mind, a relentless work ethic, deep integrity, and the courage to follow his own path. This chapter of his life may seem quiet compared to the meteoric rise of other tech leaders, but it was precisely this steady foundation that prepared him to eventually take on one of the most high-pressure leadership roles in the world. As Cook himself would later say, "Let your joy be in your journey, not in some distant goal." And so began that journey, not with fanfare, but with quiet steps, each one bringing him closer to becoming a leader who would reshape not just Apple, but the entire world of technology. After graduating from Auburn University in 1982 with a degree in industrial engineering, Tim Cook took his first steps into the world of big business. While many of his peers might have sought fast-paced roles or startups in the emerging tech world, Cook chose a more structured route. He entered corporate America, where his detail-oriented mind, calm nature, and process-driven thinking found fertile ground. Tim's first job after college was at IBM, one of the largest and most prestigious technology companies in the world at the time. He joined the personal computer division, an exciting frontier in the early 1980s, as computing was transitioning from enterprise mainframes to desktop machines. Tim spent 12 years at IBM, and it was here that his reputation as a quiet but powerful force began to build. He was not the type to seek the limelight, but he had a rare gift for optimizing systems, identifying inefficiencies, and leading through collaboration. His role at IBM evolved over the years, and he rose steadily through the ranks. By the late 1980s, he had become the North American Fulfillment Director, overseeing manufacturing and distribution for IBM's PC business across the continent. What distinguished Tim wasn't just technical skill, it was his ability to streamline operations, manage supply chains, and ensure products reached customers on time, all while keeping costs low. He was meticulous. Under his leadership, IBM's supply chain became more efficient, and his management style, quiet, thoughtful, and driven by data, began to turn heads. But even while he thrived at IBM, Tim knew he needed to sharpen his leadership and business acumen. That's when he decided to pursue an MBA. In 1988, Tim enrolled at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business. While still working full-time at IBM, He pursued his Master of Business Administration, MBA, and graduated in 1988 as a Fuqua Scholar, an honor given to students in the top 10% of their class. At Duke, Tim wasn't the loudest in the room, but he was one of the most respected. His professors admired his ability to apply theory to real-world business challenges, and his peers appreciated his calm wisdom. The MBA was transformative. It gave Tim a broader perspective on corporate strategy, finance, marketing, and people management, skills that would become essential in his future roles. After graduating, he returned to IBM with renewed vision and eventually led worldwide manufacturing for the company's PC division. He was deeply involved in logistics, customer service, and the global flow of materials. By now, he was recognized as a world-class expert in operations management. Despite his success at IBM, Tim felt something was missing. He had risen high in the corporate ranks, but he craved new challenges. After 12 years, he took a bold step. He left IBM in 1994. This was a pivotal moment. Leaving a stable job at a tech giant was risky, especially for someone like Tim, who valued structure and stability. But Cook's internal compass told him it was time to grow in new directions. After IBM, Cook joined Intelligent Electronics as the Chief Operating Officer of the reseller division. The company was a distributor of technology products and services and provided him with a different perspective on the tech ecosystem, how products reached resellers and end users. At Intelligent Electronics, Tim refined his knowledge of sales channels, logistics, and customer service. His leadership helped streamline operations and make the company more competitive. His time here was brief but significant. It marked a transition from engineering-heavy roles to executive leadership. In 1997, Tim joined Compaq, then the world's largest supplier of personal computers. He became Vice President of Corporate Materials, overseeing procurement and inventory management. Compaq was in fierce competition with Apple and other players, and Tim's job was to optimize the company's global supply chain, reduce costs, and maintain operational efficiency. He was again playing to his strengths, using logic and data to make smart business decisions. Yet, despite Compaq's size and dominance, Tim felt something was off. He once remarked that although Compaq was successful, it lacked a sense of purpose that truly inspired him. In 1998, Tim received a call that would change the trajectory of his life. It was an invitation to meet Steve Jobs, who had recently returned to a struggling Apple Inc. At the time, Apple was in bad shape. It was losing money, products were failing, and many believed the company was doomed. From a logical standpoint, leaving Compaq for Apple made no sense. Apple was a company on the brink of collapse, while Compaq was thriving. But Steve Jobs had a vision, and he knew talent when he saw it. In their meeting, Steve didn't try to impress Tim with money or titles. Instead, he talked about changing the world, about building beautiful products, and about making a difference in people's lives. Tim was captivated, not by Steve's charisma, but by the clarity of purpose. Jobs didn't just want to sell computers. He wanted to reshape the relationship between people and technology. Despite everyone advising him not to make the move, Tim listened to his gut. In a decision that shocked his peers, he left Compaq and joined Apple in March 1998 as Senior Vice President for Worldwide Operations. It was a bold, uncharacteristic move, but Tim would later say, "You have to be willing to think differently. you have to be willing to follow your intuition. When Tim walked into Apple's headquarters in Cupertino in 1998, the company was in chaos. The product line was bloated, supply chains were messy, and costs were spiraling out of control. Apple had recorded a $1 billion loss the previous year. Tim didn't panic. He quietly went to work. Within weeks, he made decisions that would change Apple's course forever. He shut down underperforming factories, outsourced manufacturing to third-party partners, and restructured Apple's operations model. His logic was simple. Apple had to stop making everything itself, and instead focus on what it did best: innovation and design. Everything else, he believed, could be optimized and outsourced. He also transformed Apple's inventory model, reducing stockpiles of unsold products from months to days. This reduced waste, saved money, and allowed Apple to be more agile in launching new products. Cook's strategies began to show results quickly. Within a year, Apple returned to profitability. While Steve Jobs was the face of the company, it was Tim Cook who was silently building the engine behind the scenes. Tim and Steve were very different people. Steve was emotional, passionate, and driven by instinct. Tim was calm, data-driven, and methodical. But together, they created a perfect balance. Jobs later said of Cook, "He's not a product person per se, but he's not afraid. He's confident enough to be honest, and that's what I need." Cook, in turn, respected Jobs deeply, calling him the most visionary leader he had ever known. Their partnership was built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. As Apple prepared to launch the iMac, iPod, and eventually the iPhone, it was Cook who ensured that millions of units could be built and shipped flawlessly to customers around the world. He turned Apple's operations into a competitive weapon. By the early 2000s, Apple's transformation was no longer in question. It had become a rising star in consumer technology, and much of that success was due to the quiet excellence of Tim Cook. By 1998, Tim Cook had taken what many saw as an impossible risk, leaving a top job at Compaq to join the floundering Apple. But with visionary CEO Steve Jobs at the helm, and Cook as the silent force behind Apple's operations, the company was about to experience one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history. Upon joining Apple as Senior Vice President of Worldwide Operations, Cook quickly took charge of what had been one of Apple's greatest weaknesses: its supply chain. Under his leadership, the bloated and inefficient operations were transformed into a lean, agile, and highly cost-effective system. Cook cut the number of Apple's suppliers and manufacturing facilities, replaced them with a few strategic partnerships, primarily in Asia, and drastically reduced inventory. Apple, once burdened with weeks of unsold stock, now operated on a just-in-time inventory system. This meant lower costs, reduced waste, and the ability to respond faster to consumer demand. It was revolutionary. Cook's philosophy was simple but powerful. We believe in saying no to thousands of projects so that we can really focus on the few that are truly important and meaningful to us. Steve Jobs focused on product and design. Tim Cook made sure those products could be made, shipped, and delivered to the world with military precision. This behind-the-scenes magic made Apple increasingly profitable. As Apple grew, so did Cook's responsibilities. His performance was so strong that in 2000, he was promoted to Senior Vice President for Worldwide Operations, Sales, and Support. Then, in 2004, he was named Chief Operating Officer, COO. In this role, Cook's influence spread across almost every part of Apple's business. He wasn't just managing logistics. He oversaw sales, service, customer support, and more. He was known for his intense focus on efficiency and performance. Meetings with Cook were famously rigorous. He expected detailed answers, data to back up claims, and sharp thinking. His reputation inside Apple became legendary. Employees described him as disciplined, tireless, and exacting. He was the first to arrive in the office, often at 4:30 a.m., and the last to leave. He sent emails at all hours and held his team to the same high standards he imposed on himself. But while his management style was strict, it was never about ego. Tim believed in results, not credit. He stayed out of the limelight, rarely giving interviews or appearing at public events. He was the opposite of the flamboyant Jobs, but no less effective. During Cook's years as COO, Apple launched some of its most revolutionary products. These included the iMac, 1998, a colorful all-in-one desktop that revived Apple's image; the iPod, 2001, a pocket-sized music player that transformed the music industry; the iTunes Store, 2003, a new digital marketplace that disrupted how we buy music; the iPhone, 2007, a revolutionary smartphone that became Apple's flagship product; the App Store, 2008, a new ecosystem for developers that exploded Apple's growth; the iPad, 2010, a tablet that redefined portable computing. Each of these product launches demanded perfect execution, from production to delivery. That was Tim Cook's arena. His ability to ensure that millions of devices were available on launch day, without shortages or delays, was a major part of Apple's success. In fact, his operational brilliance helped Apple achieve margins that were unheard of in the hardware business. While competitors struggled with inventory and low profits, Apple was becoming the most valuable company in the world. As Apple surged to new heights, trouble was quietly brewing. In 2004, Steve Jobs was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. Though initially treated and returning to work, Jobs' health began to decline over the following years. During Jobs' medical absences, Tim Cook was called to step in. The first major moment came in 2004, when Cook ran Apple for 2 months while Jobs recovered from surgery. Then again, in 2009, when Jobs took a 6-month leave, Cook once more became interim CEO. Each time, Cook led Apple without disruption. Under his temporary leadership, the company stayed on course, product timelines remained intact, and employee morale was steady. It became increasingly clear that Tim Cook was not just a brilliant operator. He was a capable and trusted leader. While Steve Jobs remained Apple's spiritual and creative center, it was Cook who kept the company running during its most turbulent times. His loyalty and ability to lead without seeking personal glory earned him deep respect. In January 2011, Steve Jobs announced another medical leave, naming Tim Cook permanent acting CEO. Though Jobs would still be involved in major decisions, Cook was now the de facto head of Apple. As interim CEO, Cook didn't try to imitate Jobs. He didn't wear black turtlenecks or deliver flashy keynotes. Instead, he remained himself, measured, thoughtful, and data-driven. He focused on what he knew best: people, processes, and performance. Internally, he reinforced Apple's culture of secrecy, discipline, and excellence. but he also began to show hints of the more collaborative and inclusive leadership style that would later define his tenure. Unlike Jobs, who was known for being demanding and at times combative, Cook was seen as calm, empathetic, and a good listener. He treated people with respect, encouraged consensus, and avoided public drama. While he didn't seek the spotlight, he wasn't afraid to speak out when necessary. In a memo to Apple employees during one of Jobs' absences, Cook wrote, "Apple is not going to change. I want you to be confident that Apple is not going to change. I cherish and celebrate Apple's unique culture. Steve built a company and culture that is unlike any other in the world, and we are going to stay true to that. It is in our DNA." These words reassured employees and investors alike. Tim Cook understood the essence of Apple. He wasn't going to reinvent the company. He was going to protect and evolve it. In August 2011, the inevitable happened. Steve Jobs officially stepped down as CEO of Apple. In a heartfelt letter to the board and the public, Jobs recommended that Tim Cook be named his successor. The board agreed. On August 24, 2011, Tim Cook was named CEO of Apple Inc. The news shook the tech world. Steve Jobs was not just the founder. He was a legend, a visionary who had revived Apple from near death and made it a global icon. Many wondered if anyone could truly replace him. But those inside Apple knew that the company was already running on Cook's engine. For years, he had been holding the reins during Jobs' absences, managing teams, supply chains, and global expansion. Cook, ever humble, acknowledged the honor and responsibility with grace. Apple is not going to change. I see Steve not just as a boss, but as a mentor and a friend. It is a privilege to work alongside him for more than a decade. Jobs passed away just 6 weeks later, on October 5, 2011. His death marked the end of an era, but it also began a new chapter for Apple and for Tim Cook. Cook was now not only the CEO of the most valuable company in the world, he was the guardian of Steve Jobs' legacy and the one tasked with taking Apple into the future. When Tim Cook officially became the CEO of Apple in August 2011, he stepped into some very large shoes. Steve Jobs was more than a founder. He was the embodiment of Apple's identity, the visionary who transformed the company into a cultural and technological powerhouse. Many doubted whether anyone could lead Apple with the same spirit, but Tim Cook brought something different. Not a flashy showman, but a steady hand, a strategic mind, and a leader deeply committed to values beyond profits. Over the past decade, Cook has redefined Apple's mission and expanded its influence on the world stage, all while maintaining the company's relentless drive for innovation. Under Cook's leadership, Apple has continued to release breakthrough products, evolving the very definition of personal technology. The years following 2011 saw new product lines, services, and technologies that expanded Apple's ecosystem dramatically. Some of the major innovations launched under Cook's tenure include the iPhone 5, 6, and subsequent models. Building on the iPhone's success, Apple introduced bigger screens, better cameras, and more powerful processors, dominating the smartphone market worldwide. The Apple Watch, 2015, a new category of wearable technology that combined health monitoring with style, quickly becoming the top smartwatch globally. The AirPods, 2016, wireless earbuds that became a cultural phenomenon, showing Apple's ability to shape lifestyle trends. Apple Music, 2015, and Apple TV Plus 2019, expanding into digital services, Apple built a streaming empire to complement its hardware. Apple Silicon 2020, announcing the transition from Intel processors to custom-designed ARM chips, revolutionizing Mac performance and power efficiency. Cook's strategy has been to create a seamless ecosystem where devices and services work effortlessly together. This ecosystem approach has boosted customer loyalty and created new revenue streams. Since Cook took over, Apple's financial growth has been staggering. The company crossed the historic milestone of becoming the first U.S. company to reach a $1 trillion market capitalization in 2018, a feat once unimaginable. By 2023, Apple's valuation soared past $3 trillion, making it the most valuable company in the world. This success came from a smart balance of innovation, expansion into services, and global market penetration. Cook has also emphasized operational excellence and supply chain resilience. When the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted global manufacturing, Apple managed to navigate shortages and delays better than most competitors, maintaining strong product launches and supply continuity. What truly sets Tim Cook apart from many CEOs is his leadership philosophy rooted in values and ethics. Unlike the Silicon Valley stereotype of relentless growth at any cost, Cook has championed corporate responsibility, inclusion, and environmental sustainability. Cook made environmental issues a central part of Apple's mission. Under his direction, Apple, committed to making its entire supply chain and products carbon neutral by 2030, invested heavily in renewable energy projects worldwide, designed products with more recyclable materials and reduced harmful substances, increased transparency with regular environmental progress reports. These efforts made Apple a leader in corporate sustainability, inspiring other companies to follow. Tim Cook has been an outspoken advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, racial equality, and inclusion. He made headlines in 2014 when he publicly came out as gay, becoming the first openly gay CEO of a Fortune 500 company. His decision was widely praised for its courage and helped pave the way for greater acceptance in corporate America. Under Cook's leadership, Apple has implemented initiatives to increase diversity in hiring, support underrepresented communities, and promote gender equality throughout its workforce. No leadership tenure is without hurdles. Cook has faced several challenges during his time at Apple. Antitrust scrutiny. Governments worldwide have investigated Apple's App Store policies and ecosystem control, raising questions about competition and market power. Product criticism. Some critics argue Apple under Cook has been more incremental than revolutionary compared to Jobs' era, focusing on refinement rather than radical innovation. Supply chain ethics. Despite environmental efforts, Apple has faced scrutiny over labor conditions in supplier factories, leading to ongoing commitments to improve standards. Privacy versus regulation. Apple has positioned itself as a protector of user privacy, which has occasionally led to clashes with governments seeking access to encrypted data. Tim Cook has addressed these challenges with transparency and by emphasizing Apple's commitment to user rights, ethical business, and innovation. Tim Cook's leadership style is a blend of humility, discipline, and vision. He often credits the people around him and the culture Steve Jobs built. He is known for being approachable internally, fostering teamwork, and listening carefully before making decisions. While he is more reserved in public than Jobs, Cook has become a prominent figure advocating for corporate responsibility and social issues on the global stage. In interviews and speeches, he often highlights, "Our values are more important than ever." Innovation is not just about products, it's about the impact we have on the world. Tim Cook's legacy is still being written, but several key themes are already clear. Sustaining Apple's greatness. He took over at a critical moment and ensured the company not only survived, but thrived beyond expectations. Balancing profit with purpose. Cook has redefined what success means for a global tech giant, placing ethics and sustainability alongside financial performance. Leading by example. As one of the few openly gay CEOs in the world, Cook's courage has inspired many, expanding Apple's influence. Under his watch, Apple has evolved from a hardware company to a powerful ecosystem of devices, software, and services. As of 2025, Tim Cook continues to steer Apple into the future. The company invests heavily in artificial intelligence, augmented reality, healthcare technologies, and clean energy. Cook has emphasized the need for innovation that solves real human problems, not just technical challenges. He remains passionate about using technology to enhance lives, protect privacy, and create a more equitable world. In a 2023 speech, Cook said, "We have the power to change the world for the better if we stay true to our values and never lose sight of the people we serve." Tim Cook's life journey is a remarkable story of perseverance, integrity, and leadership. From his humble beginnings in rural Alabama to the pinnacle of global business, he exemplifies how quiet strength and steady determination can lead to extraordinary success. He didn't fit the mold of a traditional tech visionary. Instead, he brought his unique skills, discipline, operational genius, and empathy to create a company that continues to innovate and inspire millions worldwide. Tim Cook's story is a testament to the power of staying true to oneself, embracing change, and leading with purpose. His leadership has ensured that Apple remains not only a technology leader, but also a company committed to making a positive difference in the world. Thank you so much for watching this detailed journey through Tim Cook's life. His story reminds us that true leadership isn't about fame or flash. It's about steady dedication, strong values, and the courage to lead with purpose. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends who love stories of success and innovation. Let us know in the comments what part of Tim Cook's story inspired you the most. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon to stay updated on more amazing biographies and stories that motivate and educate. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for your dreams.